Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alex, and thank you all, powers that be at the Kennedy School, for inviting me here on April Fool's Day. I don't think I missed that. 6 years ago, I was where you are, sitting out here listening to some pinhead. You know, they invited, some guy from Bulgaria going, "Oh, we need more tractors, and you must pay for them." It's been an interesting 6 years. I told my friend Professor Frank Hartman when I graduated, I said, I don't think I'm going to get a job now that I'm here at Harvard. I got the Harvard degree because I'm really essentially a working class guy, and where do I go? I mean, Radcliffe isn't going to hire me, obviously. I mean, they still ID me when I go over there. You got an ID? Say no. Okay. But in the 6 years hence, the world has changed for me, and I think I've changed the world a little bit. And some say that's good, some say that's bad. Now, because the Kennedy School of Government is a policy-driven school, in the sense that what I was here, concentrated a lot about how to get things done, how to make things right, how to make things better. I want to tell you a little tale tonight for about 15 minutes, and then we'll take Q&A for 45. And by the way, this is going to be broadcast, this little soiree here. So let those questions fly in the Factor style. Don't be timid, all right? I got a tale of two guys, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, okay? It's an amazing country, America, to elect these two guys in the space of a decade because they're so opposite. And the policies they brought to bear are so opposite and so different. Yet the American public saw fit to vote them both into office. Now, let's go back and look at Mr. Clinton first. By age 6, Bill Clinton was the smartest person in Arkansas. All right? The guy was a boy genius. His mother, he didn't have a father. All right? His mother was what they call flamboyant down south, which means she was in the bars a lot. If you hear that, flamboyant down south, that means they're tipping. But she doted on little Billy. She doted on him. I mean, and what was her choice? Roger? It was, all right? So Bill Clinton, from the time that he was in first grade, was the golden child, the golden boy, and skated right on through school, did pretty much what he wanted to do, and did it well. Did it well. Georgetown University. And you got to remember where this guy's coming from. This guy makes my upbringing look like a Rockefeller. I mean, he had nothing, nothing. He had a mother, a half-brother, chaos all around him. Just keeps ringing the bell, ringing the bell. Georgetown, then he goes to Yale, then he goes over to Rhodes Scholar or reverse, whatever. The guy is just lighting it up. Then he goes back to Arkansas, Attorney General, Governor, okay? All the while, he's setting the agenda. Nobody's telling Billy Clinton what to do. The mother's not telling him what to do. His father, he didn't have a father, as I mentioned, and he's just moving up. So his mindset is basically, hey, life is great. This is terrific. And I finally met Bill Clinton for the first time about a month ago. My boss, Roger Ailes, called me and said, I can't go to this party Tina Brown is throwing for... I think it was Ehud Barak or somebody in New York, and they want you to go in my stead. And I said, Roger, look, I never go to parties. Number one, because I'm never invited. I mean, it's pretty obvious. They tried to sneak Kennedy School graduation by me here, too, by the way, but I caught on. Something about the group picture, Little did they know. Anyway, so I go over to this party. Tina Brown is a former editor of Talk magazine, a very liberal society doyen in Manhattan. And I was just supposed to go over there and tell her Roger Ailes couldn't come. He had an emergency, and here I am, and thanks a lot for inviting us, and see you around. So I whip into this townhouse on Sutton Place in New York, and there's all kinds of limos all over, And I walk in, there's Robert De Niro, Glenn Close, Richard Holbrooke, the whole big battery of Democratic bigwigs in New York. So I'm looking for Tina Brown, and I whip around a corner and smack right into Bill Clinton. All right, boom, like this. The whole room goes. It was like that E.F. Hutton commercial. I swear to God, everybody. And Frozen. Secret Service guys go. All right? Now, he's a big guy. I mean, I'm 6'4", he's 6'2", and, you know. So I said, Mr. President, Bill O'Reilly, nice to finally meet you. And he looks at me, and I had no idea, you know, no idea. Because I'm his worst torturer on earth. I had no idea how this guy's going to react to it. So he puts his hand on my arm, like this, all right? And he's right in front of me. He puts his hand on my arm. And in my mind, I'm going, if he flips me, it'll be great for ratings. All right? That's what's going on in my mind. Do the kung fu move. I'll fly across. I'll land on Glenn Close. It'll be in all the papers. Huge numbers the next day. All right? He takes me over to the side, and he, for the next 5 minutes, proceeds to explain why Osama bin Laden wasn't his fault. It was amazing. It was amazing. Now, I hadn't been hammering him on that because I understood, you know, the dynamics of trying to get this guy bin Laden when there was really no drive in the public. They didn't know who he was. They wasn't a danger at the time. They didn't think, and all of this business. So I didn't pound him on the factor on that. But he was like, oh, we did this, we did that. And interestingly enough, in this week's Newsweek, he's doing, you know, the Newsweek writers has an interview with him. He's the same thing. So he's obsessed with this. And, well, he should be because of the terrorism thing. Whether he did enough or not is open to debate. But anyway, the guy's really charismatic. He's really, really got it. And it's just natural. He's just, if he comes back in another life, he's Elvis. He's going to be Elvis. I mean, that's who he is. So anyway, after his 3 or 4 minutes of telling me about why bin Laden's in the fault, I said, thank you, Mr. President. I'll send you a copy of my new book. He goes, I already have it. I said, don't read chapter 18. That's the chapter. It would take a village to drag Hillary into the no-spin zone. All right? He says, I already read it. With this little gleam. Give it to Hillary. Like that. So anyway, that was my meeting with him. Now, keep in mind, Bill Clinton, where he came from, what he did, and how it happened. No restraints, okay? Nobody there to really check him. This is rocking. I mean, a guy like that to be president of the United States, it's another Abe Lincoln. It's another coming from nowhere. Gets elected the highest office in the world. How did this happen? All right, keep that in mind. Let's go over to George W. Totally opposite. 180 degrees opposite. He's brought up, and his grandfather is Prescott Bush, Senator of Connecticut, from Connecticut, all right? So, little Georgie W., his father is ambassador to China, head of the CIA. I mean, it's amazing, all right? He's got a mother who's very, you know, tremendous personality, watching all the time. You know, we don't do these things. The Bush family doesn't do these things. In fact, George W. told me that the most disappointing moment of his life was when his father looked at him after the drunk driving deal up in Maine and said, I'm very disappointed in you. All right? So his father wasn't around a lot, but when his father was around, there were standards that had to be met. Standards. There was a way that we did things. We do it this way. This is how you behave. Now, Bush obviously rebelled against that. All right? And what he did, we don't know yet, but someday it'll come out. I bet it was a lot of fun. I would have been on. I wish I was hanging with him in those, you know, lost years. All right? So he rebelled against kind of an upbringing that he had. Whereas his brother Jeb never did. I mean, if you ever meet Jeb, it's, hello, how are you? I'm fine. You know, it's not like George W. But in his mind, in George W.'s mind, he always had what he was inculcated with, a sense of right, wrong. This is how we behave. This is how we don't behave. This is what we do as the Bush people. This is what we don't do. All right? That's in his mind. So you have Clinton, brilliant, charismatic, very, very open to any suggestion if you know what I mean. All right? Bush, rigid. I mean, can you imagine Monica Lewinsky snapping her thong at George W.? I mean, picture that. Picture that for a minute. Can you imagine that happening? I mean, that woman can't get south of Maryland. She's pulled over by the state police right now. She's trying to go to Florida. She can't go through D.C. I mean, it would never happen. Never happen. The whole structure. Where Clinton is, you know, whoever was bringing the pizza, and hey, baby, how you? You know, and that's, I'm not exaggerating. I mean, you know, whoa, who's that? You know. All right. Clinton gets elected president, and he brings in to the Oval Office his mindset. Of course. They all do that. All your senators and congressmen and presidents bring in, along with their policies, which they teach you here at the Kennedy School, they bring their mindset in. And Clinton's mindset was, there really isn't a right and a wrong. I don't make those kinds of judgments. All right? I see both sides. As Rosie O'Donnell said to me last week, you know, Bill, it's not always black and white, there's gray, and in the gray is where the truth lies. No. All right? There is truth. It's not in the gray zone. But for Bill Clinton, he is not the kind of guy that's going to point fingers and say, that's right, that's wrong, we do this, we do it. He's not going to do that. Not going to do it. He brings in a moral relativism to his administration. Now, how does that affect you and I? Here, 2 examples. In 1996, Senator Robert Torricelli from New Jersey, another moral relativist, okay, comes in and says, you know, Mr. President, there's a guy in Guatemala who is, on the CIA's payroll. And he was shooting people. He's a bad hombre, and we have to change this policy. We can't have the CIA paying people with human rights violations or felonies. Now, to Clinton, that sounds good. Sounds good. It's politically correct. So we can't have these guys. Executive order. Boom. No more paying felony guys or human rights violators unless you get approval from Washington. Now, if you know anything about the CIA, their station chiefs, they're not going to call Washington and say, look, I got to give Abdullah here $10,000. I know he's killed 85 people, but I need him. They're not going to do that. So what happened was many of the CIA station chiefs quit. They retired and moved up here to Cambridge. If you see the big satellite dish on their house, that's them. And intelligence dried up. Intelligence on the ground dried up. They were doing it from the satellites. We had all the eavesdropping stuff, but we weren't paying any informants because, quite frankly, Osama bin Laden doesn't want to hang around with Alex. All right? He's not going to hang around with Alex. Alex has a tie and a jacket, and he doesn't kill people. Osama doesn't. It's boring. It's too boring or something. Osama wants to hang around with people who kill people. All right? Human rights violators, he likes them. All right? Felons, he loves them. But we can't pay the felons or human rights violators to find out where he is. All right? Boom. That was called the Torricelli principle. So, from 96 to 2001, our intelligence on the ground, boom. Very, very little. Which is why we were caught napping. Now, political correctness 2 under Mr. Clinton. There's a guy named Zacarias Moussaoui who lived in Minneapolis for a little while, and he walks into the flight school. And he says, you know, I'd like a lesson, but I don't want to learn how to take off or land. Can you work that out for me? Flight guy goes, come back tomorrow. Picks up the phone, calls the local FBI office, says, hey, you know, I got this guy, walks in, doesn't want to take off, doesn't want to land, man, and it's FBI. In Minneapolis, they figure out right away, maybe we should check this guy out, all right? They call Louis Freeh. Not Louis Freeh, he was gone at that time, but they call his boys. So look, we need a wire on this guy. We got to get into his phone and we got to get into his computer and all that. We got to find out where this guy is. Nope, couldn't get the wiretap because the FBI in Washington at this point is constricted. They're like this, all right? They don't want to make any judgments. Now, if you know law enforcement, they'll find a way. There's a judge they know that will give them wiretap capabilities on anything. You can find a way. These guys know. All right? 2 weeks later, the Zacarias Moussaoui is picked up. He overstayed his visa by 18 years or something. They arrest him. They put him in jail in New York. Bang, 9/11 happens. They go, maybe we should take a look at this guy. They pull his phone records. Who did he call? Mohammed Atta. Week after that, President Bush signs into law the Terrorism Act. Now, if you're suspected of terrorist act, they can get a wire on you. All right? So, if we had had an aggressive FBI, we might have been able to tap this Zacarias, picked up his call to Atta. Who knows? But again, oh, no, I can't do anything that, no, we don't want to get in trouble. No, 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 no. Okay? All right. Enter George Bush. September 11th. Indelible in my mind, probably in yours. He's